So about 15 minutes ago, was looking at the calendar. I'm like, it's March 1st. Huge, huge, and it still is a huge weekend. But we had steaks in Florida, out in California, and of course, up in my old neck of the woods, the Big A in South Ozone Park, Queens, with Slider in the Gotham. We're happy you've joined us here on this March 1st edition of our little WPT handicapping podcast. But once again, Joe Bianca and Tom Murphy, and Joe, I'll hand it off to you first. And it's great seeing you guys, and I love that still idle picture of Jeff Lowe right there. This game, Joe, is just not for the faint of heart with the news that just broke about 15 minutes ago with Slider.
Yeah, no, thankfully it's nothing worse, but it just goes to show you like things can change overnight. And it's especially hard when you ship across the country with a horse and you got, 25, 30 partners coming in to watch. He's obviously a very, very popular horse in the stable with good reason. So yeah, that was a major downer to start the morning. Like I said, thankfully, it seems like it's not going to be a long-term thing, but it's just, as John Sadler said in the note from Jeff, like it's just terrible, horrible, no good timing.
Yep, timing's tough, but again, X-rays are clean. So, generally, I think going through life trying to be the on the side of the glass is always half full as opposed to empty. It's a good frame of mind to have generally. So again, we'll look at, as Joe was saying, the positives and the silver lining, and we'll get that John and his team will get that foot healed up, and we'll get Slider back on track. So we feel Slider partners and everybody else looking forward to seeing that horse run. We feel your disappointment and frustration, but the show will go on with him, and it'll be even sweeter when he runs back and we knock out some graded stakes wins with him, preferably maybe along with Legal Eyes, like the Woody Stevens and the Alan Jerkins a bit later in the year. Tom Murphy, switching gears for a second, we got Co-Invest onto the turf for his second start. It's always tough when you lose and you're an odds-on favorite, but I walked away from his race yesterday looking at a bunch of positives. I thought he ran pretty well in defeat yesterday at Gulfstream.
Yeah, that's two in a row for him now where he's ran really well and just got caught first time and couldn't catch up second time. The horse that won just got loose up front, and you could see everyone was trying to reel him back in. We were about the only one really making up any ground, so maybe just a hair bit longer he could have got there, but I thought he ran really well. Um, I thought it gave him a good ride, and we just ran out of ground. It just happens sometimes, but I'm excited about him. He's shown a little talent here in these first two races, so hopefully he can continue and build on that.
Yeah, good point. For a horse that naturally came with a big pedigree and purchase price, and I think his training earlier in the winter was maybe inconsistent's not the right word, but I don't think Todd was blown away by him. I've been pleased, although he's still a maiden after two starts. I mean, that doesn't mean anything. He's run very well and he's tried very hard, and he's a very tough game, fierce type of competitor on the grass. So I think we're good about that, in terms of him moving forward for sure. So 74 buyer for Co-Invest. You, Tommy, have your giant game hat on. It's been a hectic week with webinars, and I was in Ocala, so the race is later today, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but we're all rooting for Giant Game and just excited and happy he's finally getting back in the starting gate. What do you think, my friend, as he tries the turf at Tampa?
I'm excited. I mean, the other Giants Causeway, Classic Causeway, went first out on the turf and wired him in the was it the Belmont Derby? I
Yeah, it was
forget
the Belmont Derby.
that's
Big
what it
price.
was. So I'm excited. Hopefully we can do the same with Giant Game here, just with his usual front running style. Go to the front and just say, "Come and catch me," and hopefully they don't get him. And of course,
Definitely.
I'm the unofficial leader of the Giant Game fan club here, so I'll be pulling for him real hard.
You absolutely are, my friend.
He's just missing a Giant Game shirt.
I know, right? Maybe I should go get those made.
We'll get you a nice, maybe we'll make you a nice West Point Giant Game polo
There you
shirt,
go.
my friend, that you can rock. You know what? If he wins today, dude, I will get you one of those shirts. I will buy you one. I will have it embroidered. I have
I
If
love
I
it.
can sound a little immodest, I think I have when I, go to the races on a nice Saturday or Sunday
Oh
car.
yeah.
I like getting dressed up. I love suits, so I have good taste. Is what I'm trying to
There's a
say here.
lot resting
Without,
on this race now, so hope I
yeah,
need him
dude.
to get it done now.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. We will stick, guys, with Dale. Not a turf race, but a dirt race, jumping over to Saturday's Fountain of Youth card, and it's a big one. In fact, kudos. And I enjoyed my 4 years or so working for the Stronach Group, now First Racing, at Gulfstream doing the TV before coming over to work for West Point a little more than 3 years ago. Know a lot of those guys and gals in the racing office, and they've done a heck of a job putting together just a monstrous day of racing. Early post on Saturday, tomorrow afternoon, 11:15 Eastern, and we've got actually, sort of a 1, 2, 3 punch sort of deal because the three West Point horses are all running early. Successive races beginning with Dale's horse Mo Rhodes in the second. I was joking around, guys. I was out at Gulfstream for a little bit yesterday. I wanted to see Shug, as I've said, I think before. If I can jump down to Gulfstream one morning a week and see Shug for the weekly updates before they go out, I like doing that with Shug in person, face to face, and he has told me on more than one occasion he likes having me at the barn. So I was down there yesterday, and of course I had to stop over and see our man Dale after hanging out with Shug and Reed McGahee for a bit. And I was like, Dale, I know Mo Rhodes needs to run. That's the point of this race. But I'm like, you found some spot for him to come back in his first start since pretty much Halloween. Joe, looking at this race, I'm in the mindset, and I'm curious if you agree. I just want Mo Rhodes to hopefully finish up, going 7/8, and we can move on to the next one, probably going a little further than the 7 he's getting tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, if he can split this field, I feel like that would be a major accomplishment. Like this is a very, very tough group. I mean, you look at Big City at the rail, like this is a horse who probably should have broken his maiden already. He's got run 82 and 89 buyer, ran into our Born Noble first time out, and then he ran in that Speakeasy race. Obviously, Speakeasy and Victory Avenue were both coming back later in the card in the Fountain of Youth. So this is, and there's other horses in here. I mean, you got BU who ran an 88 buyer first time out, was third in the American Pharaoh, fourth in the Hopeful. Tapakina, who was fifth in that Speakeasy race. Jefferson Street for Bill Mott, who I think is pretty highly touted, has been working bullets up at Payson, ran the General Partner race first time out last summer at Saratoga. So yeah, this is a salty, salty field. So if he can run fifth in here, I think, we got something to work with.
All right, sounds good. Good luck to Mo Rhodes. I mean, you talk about David versus Goliath, but again, I don't necessarily think Dale's in the mindset of running him to win. Like Joe was saying, hopefully split the field, maybe a little bit better, and we can move on to the next race, likely going 2 turns at Keeneland. Speaking of 2 turns, we'll do that. We'll bounce over to the grass. In fact, we've got the full array of Gulfstream racing surfaces tomorrow with a dirt race and then the turf race with the Colonel Liam, and then Ohana Honor on the Tapeta on the synthetic in the fourth race. Guys, we all love Cagino. He was one of, I'd say, the most highly touted 2-year-olds leaving Ocala last spring before going to Shug. We had to give him a little bit of time over the summer that delayed him winding up in the starting gate, but his first trip around the racetrack in the afternoon, excuse me, was an unforgettable effort in November. I went back, Tommy, and it's awesome seeing him in a stake in his third start, and he's clearly a horse we have very high hopes for. Among my aspirations is the fact that he could be a leading 3-year-old turf horse, not only throughout the East Coast, but maybe even nationally as the season progressed this year for Shug. But I went back and watched, Tommy, that race against a Brumar, that allowance race here in mid-January. And I don't know if I fully forgot, but in some respects, I guess I did, just the kind of trip he had in that race. It was weird. It was, unconventional, and he still nearly pulled it off with the win. So, I mean, where's your head at with him running against the Brumar again and making a stakes debut?
Yeah, I always say it's hard to beat a good horse twice. So I know we have a good horse, so I like our shot taking him down this time. And the race is a really nice race too. The more I look at it, the more I like it. And I love Colonel Liam as a racehorse, so I'm really excited to have Cugino in the stakes race named for him. And it's just a lot of these horses are trending in the right direction, going the right way. Um, the six Silent Heart looks like a nice horse, but it's the first time it's going to be stretching out past 5 furlongs. So I would imagine that horse can show a little bit of speed. So the more speed I think we can get for Cugino to run into, the better. And I really would like to see him just blow this field away and really springboard into a huge start for the year.
Yeah, he's trained well coming out of that allowance race. I think conventional wisdom says not only just having a 3-year-old that's run twice, but when then you factor and slot in Shug training him again, it probably doesn't say a whole heck of a lot you're expecting off those 2 races, Joe, that we're sitting on, certainly to this point, maybe hands down and easily, and I hope that's the case, the best the best race, a career top to this point with Cugino. Tommy touched along the lines of Silent Heart, probably being the pace setter. I got to tell you though, I thought a Brumar ran very well from a tough post. I didn't love the field triple espresso beat last time out, but he was certainly dominant in that odds-on victory. What are you thinking here as Cooge steps up and faces the toughest task of his career?
I mean, I think you got a lot of speed. You got Silent Heart stretching out. You got the 4 Takayo, who's definitely going to go. Abrumar obviously was up on the lead. He maybe doesn't have to have the lead, but he was up on the pace last time out and ran well. So they'll probably want him forward. The 3 also stretching out from 5 furlongs to a mile. So I think you got at least 4 horses who could be tussling up front. And then you do have a couple of nice deep closers, Triple Espresso and Royal Majesty. So I feel like Cugino could be in a really good spot in that like second or third flight and get the jump on the closers. Like it's going to be, Javier's going to have to time it right. You know, he doesn't want to move too early, but he wants to get the jump on the closers behind him. So I'm thinking like we're sitting like 5th or so mid pack. And if he just moves at the right time and is able to hold off those closers, I like us a lot. I think the race sets up for him well.
Nearly everybody in the forum playing around with Formulator likes us on top. So good luck to Cooge there in the Colonel Liam, who, like Tommy, I was a big fan of as well. This 4th race, this 100K starter handicap, and it's clearly a series that they've had this winter. And I guess it's cool because it affords horses that are probably, pretty good turf horses, like a horse like Skyro, who's an older campaigner. I like the fact that you have these very rich races, almost like they're not graded stakes, but clearly looking at his campaign from early December, from December 30th to January 27th. I mean, this is a horse that's found a home on Tapeta. I'm wondering, because I walked away from this race, Tommy, thinking that Ohana Honor, although I'm very excited and I don't think he's going to have an issue handling the Tapeta, I'm very excited to see him go 9 furlongs. But this race might be the most wide open race on the entire card tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, when I was going through and I saw this race, my eyes widened. I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be a fun one." Obviously, we have Ohana in it, then some big names like you mentioned Skyro, who's been a real nice horse for a long time. Rock Emperor, I mean, he's Grade 1 winner, so it's not going to be a cakewalk for him. But there's just a lot of really nice horses, and I'm really excited to see him on the poly. I think that can really surprise a few people with him. A lot of time these grass horses take to the poly, some don't. So I'm really excited to see him get going on this and hopefully find a way to run these horses off their feet or be real close to it.
Yeah, for sure. No question about it. I turned my phone off, by the way, but you might see some text coming in. This is my slider peeps. Everybody just kind of texting me back, which is good. I mean, we try to get the word out, and Jeff Lowe had that text out within literally like 4 minutes of John informing Aaron. So, I mean, we try to run things like a well-oiled machine, but I do apologize if some of the texts coming in, even with my phone off on the iPad, are a little distracting. Joe, where's your where's your confidence level? I mean, I love Ohana. He's one of my favorite horses in the stable. I felt that way since we bought him the day I first went over to see him after he left the auction ring as a yearling at Keeneland in September 2021. Love him going longer. I want to see him as the season progresses, even beyond a mile and an eighth. I'm talking 10, maybe 11, 12 furlongs. But if he gets a good trip, I see no reason why he shouldn't be running at these horses. However, this is a big test for him. There are some tough old campaigners, and there's a lot of horses, unlike him, my friend, who already have experience running on the synthetic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's an example of how tough the field is. Rock Emperor grade 1 winner is 6-1 on the morning line. Like, I don't know that he's going to be that long of a price, but he certainly is not going to be a heavy favorite. So that tells you how deep this race is. Obviously it's a new test for him trying the synthetic for the first time. For me, I think he's quality wise, he's pretty close to most of these in here. But I also just think this is a good starting point for him. Good chance to get him out to 9 furlongs. I agree with Jason. I think the longer the better with him. So I just think, this is a good place to get him started for his 4-year-old campaign. And I think it'll be a good springboard to some longer, bigger races down the line. Obviously, I think the world of him as well. I think, obviously he's the most handsome horse in the barn. That goes without saying. But, I think he's got a ton of talent as well. I think this is kind of more of a starting point. I'm not expecting him to win just because of how tough the field is. But yeah, I'd like to see him be competitive and then move forward off of that to hopefully a big time marathon turf race down the line.
All right, big time race coming up way down the line, and it's a loaded card. I mean, we could make this podcast, guys. I mean, we could make this thing an hour and a half long going through all the stakes, but for brevity's sake, which has never been a strong suit of mine, and the fact that we do have some other West Point horses running over the weekend and very important horses in huge spots, we'll jump over to the Fountain of Youth. Got to tell you guys, I know we don't have Hades or Fierceness running back, or, I was hopeful we might make the race, certainly with Stretch Ride before having to give him some time. And then as recent as Born Noble, who breathes very well this morning, by the way, at Palm Beach Downs. So he'll have a Derby prep in his very near future. It's just not going to be tomorrow afternoon in the Fountain of Youth. I got to tell you guys, yeah, there's been some defections, but I think it's a fascinating race. Having Dornock, who pretty much from the day he debuted and even before he debuted with the hype Danny Gargan was talking up this horse, that he was easily the best horse he had ever trained. And so this horse has been highly regarded and touted since even before that race last July 29th at the Spa. But having him locked, of course, a grade 1 winner last season at 2, and then having 2 potentially enigma, very wild cardish type horses like Victory Avenue and Speak Easy out of that crazy fast maiden race on Pegasus Day. Gang, Tommy, I think this is a really, really, really solid Fountain of Youth field with just a few different plot lines. I can't wait to see what shakes out.
Yeah, I think the morning line's pretty spot on. So I think a lot of people, especially in their pick fives, are going to single down to Dornock or Locked. I'm probably going to choose one of those two. I just haven't picked them yet. I'm a little weary Victory Avenue and Speak Easy just because how fast that maiden the numbers came back on that. So, I mean, if either of those get it done here, then you'll know that was a legit race. But I really think it's going to come down to Dornock, who, I mean, that horse ran his eyeballs out last time out on the Remsen. That was unbelievable. Just for him,
his Remsen win. Yeah, his Remsen win was excellent. I will say,
fantastic.
He rode a gold rail, and yes. I know the pace was fast, but to me, that's offset. In my humble opinion, I'm not saying he's not a nice horse. I think he's a really nice horse, and in fact, a good buddy of ours is a part owner of him, and Mark Pine. So I've always gotten along great with Danny Gargan. So this horse is a very easy route for me, but his Remsen, I do think, is a dressed up effort. And there was no doubt in my mind, Sierra Leone ran easily the better race of the two back at Aqueduct right after Thanksgiving. But we'll see how he does coming back. What do you think, Joe? I mean, you've got Locked in the race as well. I mean, if you had to, give us not only a summation, but maybe even a top pick, where you headed in the Fountain.
Yeah, I mean, this is a stacked field. Like I was talking to my buddy and my Rail Talk co-host John Green about this. Like in the Holy Bull, you really on paper just had to get around fierceness. In this race, you got about 4 horses that you got to get around. Locked, obviously, is the class of the field as a Grade 1 winner. You guys talked about Dornoch, and then the 2 horses coming out of that big maiden race. Listen, I think I agree with Tommy that like when you see these big maiden race fields, big figures for the maiden races, and the horses are almost all first time starters, like you don't really know what to think in terms of the legitimacy of the figure. But the 4th place finisher, Corporate Power, came back to win, and then we'll get a little bit more of a hint on how legit that race is earlier in the card, like we were talking about in the Mo Roads race with Big City and Tapakina running back. So I think by the time the Fountain of Youth comes around, we'll get a better sense of how real that number is. I can't take Speakeasy breaking from the rail, much shorter price than he was last time. When do you see a Todd Pletcher firster win at 8-1 with a 100 buyer? Like it just never ever happens. Victory Avenue, I know, is very very highly regarded. I would lean towards Locked just because I think the race might set up for him. I think he'll be laying in like 4th or 5th under Jose, and he'll be able to reel in the speed horses. I think there's enough speed to set him up. So yeah, I agree with you on Dornoch. I think he's really really talented. Obviously was flattered by the 2nd and 3rd finishers and the Remsen coming back, but this is his first start off the layoff. This is a springboard obviously for him. You can say the same for Locked, but I just think he has a little bit more under him going into this race. So I think the race sets up for him. I think he's the class of the field, so I'd lean towards Locked.
Big weekend for 3-year-olds, not only nationally, but even down at Gulfstream. And we touch guys. And again, good luck to the old WPT Warhorse Giant Game later today at Tampa. Speakeasy, by virtue of him opting for the Fountain of Youth, has scratched out of that other than later today. But I am dying. I was telling Chug yesterday, I'm just, even though he's going to be probably 3 to 5, and he's, you talk about the hype train, it is in full effect. That Conquest Warrior that's running later today at Gulfstream. I am dying to see how that horse runs in his 3rd lifetime start. Quick thought, Tommy. I mean, watching that horse break his maiden last time out, Shug may have another good one, much like he has with Corporate Power.
Yeah. Shug me, he's burned. He's usually loaded with horses like that. So I feel like he's going to be another one of these, and he's going to be a force here this year that we're going to see a lot of him in some of these big races, especially over the summer.
If you get 3 to 5, run to the window. If you get 3 to 5, I think he'll be closer to that race.
What price do you think he'll be, Joe? Like 2 to 5?
I think he'll be 1 to 5. Yep.
1 to 5. Yeah.
Yeah. With the Todd horse out, I just think there's nowhere else to go. And like you said, the hype train is in full effect for that horse now.
Yeah, no, his second start was just seeing him just get crushed out of that starting gate and then run up on track. It was almost like me pulling on 95 South heading down to Gulfstream yesterday, just weaving in and out of lanes to get a good spot. Merritt obviously could improve. I think he'll run better than he did. I mean, he cost himself, and it was like an old school kamikaze ride going after Born Noble. He'll be your second choice, but looking forward to that race later today at the good old GP by the Sea. What about Scatify, guys? I mean, look, I love Scatify. He's been phenomenal. We knew when we bought him last May we were gonna have to give him some time, and he debuted not long before Christmas. Was terrific first out. Love the early speed that he's got. However, the best 3-year-old, and I don't even think it's close, the best 3-year-old in the country by the name of Nisos is in this spot, or San Felipe rather, Sunday because of the rain. They canceled Saturday. They'll run this card Sunday out at Santa Anita. Good luck to Scatify. Tommy, is there any way we can turn the tables on Nisos with our Justify cult on Sunday out there at the Great Race Place?
I mean, you never know. That's why you want to run the race, right? And now I think I'm starting to know what some people were thinking to themselves and trying to tell themselves when they run it up against Flightline. Because I mean, just this horse is just so dominant that you're scratching your head wondering, will he ever do anything wrong? So I think our best chance is for whatever he doesn't fire, and we just take advantage of that and just try to run away from that field. But I mean, he's a tough beat. He's I think 1 to 5 on the morning line already. So I mean,
yep,
you're not getting anything betting wise from him, but from what we've seen from his races, I think he's won by like 8, 9, 10 lengths in all the starts. So hopefully we can whittle that number down to be closer this time. And
Yeah,
hopefully
he's been
once he's chasing.
yeah, no, he's been outrageous in his career thus far. Scatify, meanwhile, has done some nice things. I really, Joe, like the early speed that he has. I mean, he can fly early. I guess we just put him on the lead from the rail and let the chips fall where they may. Correct?
Yeah, I mean the problem is like with the other two Bafferts in the race, like he kind of holds all the cards in terms of softening us up. If that's what we do, if that's what Hector does and goes to the lead, like it's just we're kind of cornered a little bit in this field, as if Nisos needs the help, you know. Like I feel like he could win this race no matter what, but it seems like Baffert has like the B and the C plans, just in case Scatify gets loose. So yeah, I mean, this is the kind of race where again, if he runs second, we'll take it. We'll take the points. We'll move forward and maybe see him out of town for his final Derby prep. But you know, let's just see how he breaks. And then Hector's had a great meet at Santa Anita. I trust him to do the right thing. Scatify is not a need the lead type. You saw in his debut, he was able to sit off just a little bit. So you know, it's I would like to see him get a little bit of a breather this time, as opposed to last time when Wind Me Up was right on his neck, basically from the start of the race. But you know, like I said, Baffert seems like he's got this race cornered a little bit.
We've got Sedona on Sunday. She'll debut, guys, down at Gulfstream Park. I mean, expectations. The fact that she comes with expectations and much is again anticipated and expected out of her is probably the understatement of the weekend, considering what she cost as a yearling or pedigree. And I mean, from the moment, well, even before she stepped into that phase of Saratoga sales ring in the summer of 2022 as a yearling, but prior to that, getting down at Dr. Eisenman's place all through her short life thus far, you know, the one like phrase that has followed her has been she's a dream horse. You know, look, she's still a shug firster, so is she going to be 100% cranked? Is this the ultimate goal with her? Of course not. But I was pretty pleased, Joe. I got to tell you, looking at the field from top to bottom, uh, it doesn't look like, not that any spots are easy, but it just between her post and the competition, it does look like she's found a very nice spot to get her career underway on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, especially comparatively, like you look at the race that Mo Rhodes is in tomorrow compared to this race, like obviously Colts and Phillies, it's a little bit different. But yeah, you could find some monster Phillies, monster firsters in a Philly race at Gulfstream as well, any day of the week, especially on a weekend. So yeah, but there's nobody in this field that I'm like, oh, like if we can run second to her, that'd be great. You know, like there's just no stick out. That's not to say that these Phillies can't run. There might be a nice Philly that pops up and wins by daylight. But yeah, it's going to be great to get her started. I know Shug and his team have thought a lot of her from the jump, as have we. And yeah, I like that she drew a little bit outside. So if for whatever reason she's not too sharp out of the gate, she doesn't get squeezed down towards the inside and get a little discouraged. So yeah, let's just get her in a nice rhythm. 7 furlongs I like better than 6, and you know I'm excited to see what she can do, because yeah, she oozes class. Jay, I'm sure you agree with that.
Yeah, I've watched her train a few times this winter, or at least gallop. I haven't caught one of her breezes yet in person, but no, just acts like a classy filly, and that dream horse again mantra has followed her from pretty much day one. You know, looking at the field as Joe was touching upon, Tommy, if I had to pick personally for me, the one horse that scares me, it's the Danny Gargan filly. I think her name is Neat Trick. I like the race that she's coming out of, won by a coma. It seems like, or Roswell rather, who's out of a coma. It does seem, hey, what's up, Jakey? It does seem Jake's back for another podcast appearance here. He's probably just off screen now. I love this guy
Yeah,
so
we got
much. Yeah, come here. Oh, good. He's here. Come on, Jake. Last time Christine and I were watching it back. There's my boy. Big weekend, Jakey. We're going to get the money with Sedona. But Tommy, in terms of the Gargan filly, I thought Neat Trick ran pretty well. And I didn't think she had like an easy cakewalk trip from an inside post. It looked like she was a little in tight early, and she finished up okay. And I like that horses out of that Roswell race have come back to run pretty well.
Yeah, that's one of the first horses I saw that kind of have my eyes drawn to, saying, we got to watch out for this one. I mean, Todd's got a firster with I read up as well, Ash Wednesday inside a neat trick. So that's going to be one you got to watch. And the one that I think is probably going to be the horse to really watch is the Mod horse, Bedazzle him. Just second time with Mod here. First off layoff, he's like 20% guy or so. And I like the pedigree on that horse too a lot. So that's one that I just kind of, if Sedona wasn't in this race, I'd probably go with that horse. But lucky for us, Sedona's in this race, and she's got a better pedigree than all of them. And it helps
Indeed, she
too that
does.
her brother won first out for Shug. So same day that Flightline won. I remember I watched both of those. That was a fun day. But so
Yep.
maybe she can follow his
I'm
footsteps.
glad you brought that up, Tommy, because in talking to our supreme leader, Terry Finley, yesterday, he said him and I got a cup of coffee after watching training for a bit. He goes, "What?" He was like, "Mark my words. You remember first captain first out. She's going to do the same thing he did." So I'm glad you brought that up. That was someday. In fact, I had just started working for the company, and was Terry and I was, because the April sale had just ended. We had the 2-year-old showcase. That was a Saturday. First captain was running early at Belmont, Flightline, of course, later in the afternoon out at Santa Anita. And I was dropping Terry off at the airport in Orlando before heading home to Fort Lauderdale. And we pulled over on the side of the road to watch first captain. And dude, I mean, you remember no shot. Like even at the 3/8 pull, no shot. And then to
Yeah,
see him put in that like monstrous run was just, I'll never forget that for the rest of my life. Great memory.
I remember I was at the TDN at the time, and like the TDN Rising Stars is a big thing. We usually didn't make horses Rising Stars who won by that kind of margin. It usually is like by open lengths. But the way he did it, we were like, all right, so this horse is probably a pretty good one.
And he turned out to be a good one, knocked out a few graded stakes with him. And, here's to his sister, who's the third foal in the family. There's an Uncle Mo out of America that couldn't outrun, I don't know, couldn't outrun anybody. But, first captain, and of course, Sedona's up next. So good vibes with her. And look, it's a big weekend for Shug. I checked in on all the 2-year-olds in Ocala earlier this week, and for everybody watching, I mean, the West Point 2-year-old class is second to none, and I think we're all daydreaming huge things and exciting times in the coming months, and certainly fast forwarding, as crazy as it sounds, to 2025 when this crop turns 3 next winter. But in looking at Sansone, Statesman, the Quality Road March Express, who are all going to Shug later this spring, I was thinking, and I think I said it on video, I'm like, man, we have got a monstrous weekend in terms of just firepower with Shug at the helm. Not only the boys on Saturday at GP, but we've also got, of course, Sedona, and then Joe, Wayhill Road, who it might be for me a coin flip. What is the toughest race this weekend at Gulfstream? They're not stakes, but dude, looking at Ohana Honor and then the race, which is like a layoff kind of derby that Wayhill wound up in, I just hope he gets a good trip from out there. We get a good race into him, and I'm looking forward to that horse going to Keeneland next time out.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those races, like just throw a dart at the PPs and then take that horse. Like you can make a case for pretty much all 12 of them. Obviously, we didn't get the best of luck from the draw. But yeah, hopefully he has a good experience, good clean trip. For obviously it's always tough to come back off of a maiden win anyway, first time versus winners, and reproduce that effort. But then you throw in the layoff as well. Just kind of a stepping stone race for him for hopefully a good campaign. I like that the light kind of went on for him rather a little bit late in the year. He had a couple of races that were a little disappointing, and then his last 2 I thought were big steps forward. So yeah, let's see another step forward, and then even with another step forward, like 4th or 5th, maybe we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Tommy, you probably have almost in a way, not a better, but maybe a little slightly different perspective than Joe and I have on Wayhill, because of course your dad is a partner in on this horse. So I'm sure you've pretty much had laser eyes and been completely locked in from Wayhill from day one. I will add, gang, and this of course includes you, Tommy, that This is a horse that Reeve McGahee, who's become a good buddy of mine and is a great guy, and Shug always says, no one has better assistance than I have with Anthony and Reeve helping to run the stable. But this is a horse that Reeve has said to me on one occasion he is the most excited of looking at a 4-year-old season. He just really feels Wayhill's got the potential to bring his game to not only new heights, but significantly newer heights in 2024.
Yeah, like Joe said, I mean, it took a little bit for him, but when that light went on, he looked like a completely different horse. And I think that first time he really ran, I thought, was Kentucky Downs. I was really pumped after that race. I mean, I love Kentucky Downs, I love turf racing. So to see him run well there and then build off that and go win at Keeneland was just awesome. So I think you mentioned it already. I'd really just like to get him back to Keeneland, going a mile and 16s on the grass. I think that's going to be a great spot for him. And I think this is just a good one to knock some rust off and just get everything flowing again, get him in a good groove for Keeneland, and get a huge 4-year-old year started off right here. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right, beautiful. So I'll be holding the fort. We got a big crew of partners coming out tomorrow afternoon. Especially, I mean, the Cugino fan club is present and robust, and like all our partnerships, insanely passionate. So it'll be a fun weekend down at the good old GP by the sea. Great catching up, guys. I wish you all the best. It's hard to believe it's March 1st, but I hope it's a wonderful start to March for you two and all of our partners. And on that note, we'll sign off. Good luck to Giant Game later today. All of our horses, safe trips throughout the weekend, and we'll catch you next week, where we just might have a maiden breaking appearance, gang, by Terrence P. Finley on this podcast. Would you two be okay if we
Oh,
brought the
100%.
boss on?
Sure. I don't know. Does he handicap? I'm not sure.
Let him show off some of those skills. I know he can a little bit. I want to see it.
Yeah, that is a very good point. We're gonna have him burning the midnight oil, just delving into the PPs, recapping all the stakes we just talked about and all the West Point horses, because it's a monster weekend. So stay tuned. We'll catch you next time. 2-year-old sale for March, right on the horizon. Check out the webinar we did for existing partners. If you missed it yesterday, the replay links on Chatter. And all right, Joe, Tommy, great job as always, boys, and we'll see everybody next time.